All right, everybody, welcome to TEG Daily Indiana Manufacturing News, where I read all of the news that's most likely to impact Indiana manufacturing. So let's get into it. NIPSCO's $1.64 billion infrastructure cost overrun just landed in front of the Indiana Supreme Court, and the ruling won't just affect U.S. Steel. It sets the rules for every industrial customer on NIPSCO's system and potentially all four other investor-owned utilities in the state. Today's brief covers that case, a $3.8 billion chip plant in West Lafayette, where a pending residential court petition could, if it succeeds, push the 2028 production timeline on a facility tied to NVIDIA's HBM supply and a central Indiana utility racing to lock in a 3-year demand-side management approval before a parent company ownership deal reshuffles the regulatory board. 3 stories: your power bill, your supply chain, and your future workforce all in play today. On May 21st, the Indiana Supreme Court heard oral arguments in IURC case number 45557, NIPSCO's $1.64 billion electric infrastructure plan, approved December 28, 2021. The NIPSCO Industrial Group, a coalition of 6 major industrial customers, including U.S. Steel, appealed after the IURC allowed NIPSCO to recover inflation-driven overruns through its TDSIC tracker, that's Transmission and Distribution System Improvement Cost Tracker, rather than through a standard base rate case. NIPSCO's attorney, Brian Paul, argued the cost increases were unforeseeable. Transformers and breakers up more than 150%. Some circuit rebuild unit costs exceeding 380%, and a standard 70-foot wood pole jumping from $3,253 in 2019 to $5,682 in 2024. The industrial group's attorney, Todd Richardson, countered that NIPSCO is a for-profit enterprise and that routing costs through the tracker rather than a rate case bypasses the prudence review that protects customers from spending that isn't cost justified. Now, here's what's not getting emphasized in the coverage. NIPSCO's TDSIC 6 billing proceeding is already collecting costs for April through September 2025, while the Supreme Court decides whether to even take the case. And a separate $741 million gas TDSIC plan, cause number 46342, is pending right now with OUCC testimony already filed. Whatever specific justification standard the court sets governs both. AES Indiana, CenterPoint, Duke, and Indiana Michigan Power are all watching because they operate under the same exact statute. So if you're a dual fuel customer on NIPSCO's system, quantify your total TDSIC exposure across electric and gas before that ruling lands. The next story has been building for months. SK Hynix's $3.8 billion high bandwidth memory facility in West Lafayette is being fast-tracked by local officials. Tax incentives, accelerated approvals, with above-ground construction on the main facility targeted to begin later in 2026 and mass production slated for the second half of 2028. But a court petition filed by residents in late 2025 is still in hearing. The procedural complaint centers on the Purdue Research Foundation, a private nonprofit that owned the land and acted as deal architect, a structure that insulated the transaction from standard municipal planning transparency. That's the basis Indiana courts will scrutinize. Here's why this facility matters strategically. SK Hynix holds roughly 62% of the global HBM market and is a primary supplier of NVIDIA's HBM chips. The West Lafayette facility is the U.S. production anchor for that supply relationship. If the resident petition succeeds and delays construction materially, it slips the 2028 production ramp. SK Hynix does have other HBM capacity globally, but this facility represents its U.S. manufacturing foothold under the CHIPS Act framework. Watch the Tippecanoe County court proceedings for that reason. On the construction side, the CHIPS Act award for this project requires either a project labor agreement or 15% registered apprenticeship utilization. This is the largest single development project in Indiana history. If your firm or your contractors aren't already tracking those compliance requirements, you are probably behind. The water demand alone, nearly 4 million gallons per day through Indiana American Water, means Indiana American Water will need to file for source capacity expansion and base rate additions to serve this load. And cost recovery for that build out will hit the broader customer class across the greater Lafayette region. Now, this next one keeps developing. We covered AES Indiana's $193 million rate case pushback on May 19th. Today, there's a new filing layered on top of it. AES Indiana has filed its newest 3-year energy efficiency plan with the IURC as required by Indiana code. The plan aligns with AES Indiana's 2025 Integrated Resource Plan, which targets 118 megawatts of demand response and efficiency additions by 2028 and 285 megawatts by 2032. For large commercial and industrial customers above 1 megawatt of demand, the cash rebate structure goes up to $1 million per project. So here's the strategic context. The coverage is missing. AES Corp, the Virginia-based parent, has disclosed a going private transaction in an SEC filing. The IURC, the OUCC, and the Citizens Action Coalition are all monitoring whether a leveraged change of control affects AES's ability to backstop DSM program costs and lost revenue recovery obligations. That's precisely why AES Indiana appears to be locking in a 3-year DSM approval under the current ownership structure now, before a change of control proceeding reshuffles stakeholder dynamics. This lands directly on top of AES Indiana's pending rate case, cause number 46258, where the IURC's final order deadline is June 24th, 2026. The 2-phase rate increase AES Indiana is seeking, roughly 7.5% in Q2 and approximately 6% in January 2027, will, if approved, materially increase the all-in cost environment in which this new DSM plan gets evaluated. For C&I customers above 1 megawatt, that's the rate context in which your demand and energy charges get reset. And it's the same window in which these DSM rebates are available. The window on the currently approved 2025-2026 plan is open right now. Identify which efficiency projects qualify for rebates under that existing approval before regulatory uncertainty from the ownership transaction potentially delays the next cycle. All right, so here's where today's 3 stories all converge. Indiana's regulatory and infrastructure frameworks are being stress tested simultaneously on rate recovery, semiconductor governance, and utility ownership. 3 concrete actions. First, audit your local TDSIC exposure across both electric and gas before the Supreme Court rules on NIPSCO's cause number 45557. That ruling governs the pending $741 million gas plan too. Second, get your contractors assessed against the Davis, Bacon, and apprenticeship requirements on the SK Hynix project before construction mobilizes. Third, pull the list of efficiency projects that qualify under AES Indiana's currently approved DSM plan before June 24th. The rate case order and the ownership transaction are converging on the same calendar. On that last point specifically, if you're above 1 megawatt of demand, you can seek intervener status and cause number 46258, coordinate with the OUCC, or file comments before that June 24 deadline. Those are concrete levers available for you to pull right now, and operators who use them will be positioned to shape the outcome rather than absorb whatever happens. Now, I don't run a manufacturing facility. I am the CEO of Tactical Energy Group, an Indiana-based energy management technology provider. And one of the most important things I can do is stay on top of all the dynamics that drive up the cost of making things in Indiana so we can consistently improve the solutions we bring to the manufacturing community. So, what am I doing here with TEG Daily Indiana Manufacturing News? I'm staying on top of the essential developments and I am bringing them to you. And I seriously hope that they are useful to you. So go ahead and share this brief with your team and subscribe to get daily updates just like this one.